The story really began years before that dinner, when Blaine and I were still children. I was always the quiet one in our family. I never needed people to notice me, but Blaine seemed to need attention all the time. If our parents praised something I had done, he would find a way to make it sound unimportant. I never understood why he acted that way. I thought maybe he was simply competitive. As we grew older, I started to see something deeper. Blaine wanted everyone to believe he was the strongest, smartest, and most successful person in the family. I never challenged him because I had no interest in competing with my own brother. After our father passed away, I became even more focused on helping our mother. I worked long hours, saved carefully, and slowly built my career without telling many people. Blaine never asked what I was really doing. Whenever we spoke, he talked about his job, his expensive dinners, and the important people he knew. I listened because I didn't want another argument. My mother often told me that Blaine was proud of me, even if he had a strange way of showing it. I wanted to believe her. So when Blaine invited me to that dinner, I thought maybe something had changed. I thought perhaps he finally wanted us to have a normal relationship. I had no idea that evening would show me exactly how little he respected me, and that someone I never expected would soon expose the truth. By the time I finished college, I had learned to depend on myself. I took small business jobs at first, checking records, finding wasted money, and helping owners make their daily work easier. I enjoyed solving problems that other people ignored. Over time, those small jobs turned into steady work, and I built my reputation through results instead of promises. Blaine chose a very different path. He cared about the kind of car he drove, the people he stood beside, and the title printed under his name. At family gatherings, he often talked about his office and the people above him. When someone asked about me, he usually gave a short answer and quickly changed the subject. I stopped expecting him to understand what I did. Then I received a contract from a large logistics company that was growing faster than its systems could handle. The work was challenging, but I saw it as the chance to prove myself. I spent weeks studying reports, visiting different departments, and speaking with employees who were afraid to tell management what was going wrong. I found several costly problems that had been hidden inside ordinary paperwork. The company owner took my findings seriously and gave me more responsibility. I never mentioned the owner's name to Blaine. There was no reason to. He had already decided my work was not worth discussing. While I was building something meaningful, Blaine was busy building an image. He saw only the quiet sister who worked behind a laptop. He never bothered to ask what that quiet work was actually achieving. I almost canceled the dinner twice. Blaine had not invited me anywhere alone in a long time, so his sudden message felt strange. Still, I remembered our mother's words and decided to give him one chance. When I arrived at the restaurant, I saw Blaine sitting with several people I had never met. They were dressed in expensive clothes and spoke about business, travel, and private clubs. Blaine stood up and gave me a quick hug, but his smile felt forced. I sat beside him and tried to make conversation. For the first few minutes, everything seemed normal. Then one of the men asked how Blaine and I were related. Blaine answered before I could say anything. He made a joke about us being completely different. Everyone laughed politely. I tried to ignore it. A woman across the table asked what kind of work I handled. I opened my mouth, but Blaine cut in again. He described my work as simple office tasks and made it sound like I had no real career. I watched the others look at me with curiosity. One man asked if I had ever considered working for a major company. Blaine laughed and said I was comfortable doing things that nobody noticed. That comment hurt more than I wanted to admit. I looked around the table and understood what was happening. Blaine had brought me there because he wanted an audience. He wanted people to see him as the successful brother and me as the person standing far below him. I stayed quiet, but something inside me changed. I stopped hoping that he had invited me because he wanted to rebuild our relationship. Blaine was still talking when the restaurant doors opened. I noticed several people glance toward the entrance, but Blaine was too busy explaining how close he was to receiving a better position at work. Then he suddenly stopped. His face changed, and he quickly stood from his chair. I followed his eyes and saw a tall man walking toward us in a dark suit. Blaine fixed his jacket and hurried forward. I had never seen him move so quickly to greet anyone. "Mr. Calloway, what a surprise," he said, trying to sound confident. The man nodded, but his attention soon moved past Blaine. His eyes landed on me. He paused for a moment, then walked toward my side of the table. "Marin Mercer?" he asked. I stood and confirmed my name. His face showed clear recognition. He asked why I had not told him I was having dinner there. I was confused and glanced at Blaine. Before I could answer, Everett turned toward the table and explained that my work had helped his company avoid a major mistake during its expansion. He spoke about the detailed report I had prepared and the decisions that followed from. Blaine became completely still. His friends looked from him to me. Everett then mentioned that I had been working with his executive team for several months. The mood at the table changed instantly. Blaine had just spent the evening making my career sound meaningless, yet his own boss was speaking about my work with genuine respect. Everett looked at Blaine and asked why he had described me as unsuccessful. Blaine opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For once, he had no clever answer. Everett did not leave the table after speaking to Blaine. Instead, he explained why my work had mattered so much. During my review of the company, I had noticed numbers that did not match the actual performance of one division. I spent days checking records and speaking with workers before I found the source. A senior manager had been changing reports to make the department look stronger than it was. If the problem had continued, the company could have lost a huge amount of money during its expansion. I gave Everett the evidence, and he acted quickly. The manager was removed, and the company avoided a serious financial loss. Everett said that was why he trusted my judgment and had offered me more work. I looked at Blaine. He seemed unable to understand what he was hearing. His earlier confidence had disappeared. After a long silence, he gave a nervous laugh and said he had only been joking. I felt something inside me finally break. I looked directly at him and said, "No, Blaine, you weren't joking. You were telling them what you actually think of me." Nobody at the table laughed this time. I stood, picked up my bag, and walked toward the exit. I did not want another argument. Outside, I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself. A moment later, Everett came outside. He did not tell me to forgive Blaine or return to the table. He simply said that being family did not mean I had to accept disrespect. I looked back through the window and saw Blaine sitting alone. For the first time, I understood that leaving was not weakness. It was a boundary. The next morning, my phone rang before I had even finished breakfast. It was my mother. Her voice sounded worried, and she asked why I had embarrassed Blaine at the restaurant. I knew immediately that he had already told his version of the story. I did not argue with him. I explained exactly what happened, including the comments he made before Everett arrived. My mother became quiet. She had always believed Blaine was simply proud and ambitious, but now she understood that his behavior had gone much further. When Blaine joined the call, she asked him why he had spoken about me that way. Instead of apologizing, he became angry. He said I had made him look foolish in front of his boss and accused me of enjoying the attention. I listened carefully. That was when I understood the real problem. He was not sorry for hurting me. He was upset because someone important had finally seen the way he treated me. After the call ended, I sat alone for a while. I felt tired, but I also felt clearer than before. Later that afternoon, Everett called me about a new project. He wanted me to lead a major restructuring effort within the company. The position would place me in meetings with senior leaders and would likely bring me into contact with Blaine more often. I hesitated because I knew accepting it could make things uncomfortable. Then I remembered how many years I had kept my achievements quiet just to avoid upsetting him. I finally said yes. I decided I would no longer make my life smaller because my brother could not handle seeing me succeed. After I accepted the new project, I noticed Blaine's attitude changed completely. He stopped speaking to me unless other people were present, and then he acted polite while making small comments about my work. Soon, I heard from a coworker that he had been telling people I was arrogant and difficult to work with. He also suggested that Everett had given me the project because he personally liked me. I decided not to respond to rumors. Instead, I kept careful records of every meeting, email, deadline, and decision connected to my work. A few weeks later, one project fell behind schedule, and Blaine tried to place the blame on me during a leadership meeting. I opened my records and showed the exact timeline. The delay had started in his department because information had not been sent when promised. Everett asked for a full review of the situation. During that review, several employees came forward with concerns about Blaine. They showed that he had taken credit for work they had completed. Some had even kept their own records because they were afraid to challenge him. Then the review uncovered something worse. Blaine had held back important information from senior leaders, so another department would appear responsible for problems his team had caused. The evidence was clear. I was given the chance to speak about everything I knew. Part of me wanted everyone to see Blaine the way I had seen him for years, but I refused to turn the situation into a personal attack. I gave them the facts, answered every question honestly, and let the evidence speak for itself. For once, Blaine had nowhere to hide. The review ended without any blame placed on me. The facts had cleared my name, but Blaine could not escape what the evidence showed. Everett met with him privately and told him that talent meant very little when a person used lies and other people's work to move ahead. Blaine lost the promotion he had expected for months. Soon after, he was removed from the leadership path altogether. I tried not to feel satisfied by his problems, but I could not ignore how different everything felt. For years, Blaine had acted as if his career made him better than everyone around him. Now that image was gone. At the same time, my restructuring project was moving forward. The changes we made saved the company millions of dollars and helped several departments work more efficiently. Everett offered me a permanent executive consulting position. It was the kind of opportunity one had once been afraid to accept because I worried about how Blaine would react. This time, I accepted without hesitation. Blaine's friends also began keeping their distance. Some of them had believed everything he said about his career, and now realized they had only heard one side. A few weeks later, Blaine called me. His voice sounded different. There was no anger or pride in it. He admitted that he needed help finding a new direction and asked if I could guide him. I listened, but I did not promise anything. I told him that what happened to him was not my revenge. These were the results of choices he had made again and again. If he wanted a better life, he would have to build it honestly himself. Several months passed before I saw Blaine again at our mother's birthday dinner. When he arrived, I almost did not recognize him. He wore simple clothes and came alone. He did not talk about his job or try to impress anyone. After dinner, he asked if we could speak privately. I agreed. Blaine looked nervous and kept his eyes on the floor. Then he apologized. He did not mention his lost promotion or what had happened at work. He said he was sorry for the way he had treated me for years. He admitted that he had spent so much time trying to look successful that he became ashamed of anyone who did not fit the image he wanted. He said calling me a nobody was cruel, and he finally understood how much those words had hurt. I appreciated that he was taking responsibility, but I did not pretend everything was fixed. I told him I accepted his apology, but trust would take time. We agreed that our relationship needed clear limits. We would speak honestly, but neither of us would allow insults or disrespect again. That night, I realized something I had not understood before. I had spent months thinking about what would happen to Blaine, but his downfall was never my goal. I did not need to embarrass him or make him suffer. My real victory was becoming successful without becoming cruel. I had built my career through patience, honesty, and hard work. The woman Blaine once treated like she was unimportant had created a life she was proud of. I no longer needed him to admit my worth. I already knew it. Sometimes I still think about that dinner, and the moment Blaine called me a nobody. For a long time, I believed that night changed my life because Everett happened to walk up behind me. But I understand now that Everett did not give me value. He only helped other people see what had already been there. I had spent years working quietly, solving difficult problems, and building a career without needing anyone to praise me. After everything that happened, I continued working with the company and took on bigger challenges. I became known for staying calm when problems were serious and finding solutions when others could not. My life also became more peaceful because I stopped trying to prove myself to Blaine. He slowly rebuilt his career by being honest about what he knew and what he still needed to learn. Our relationship was never exactly like it had been when we were children, but there was something new between us: respect. One evening, Blaine and I sat together after visiting our mother. He looked at me and said, "I spent years trying to convince everyone you were nobody because I was afraid they'd realize you were everything I wasn't." I stayed quiet for a moment before answering. "You didn't make me small, Blaine. You just showed everyone how small you were willing to become." He nodded. I did not feel anger anymore. I simply felt free. Betrayal can hurt more when it comes from family, but healing does not always mean getting even. Sometimes the strongest revenge is building a good life, keeping your dignity, and reaching a point where another person's opinion can no longer decide how you see yourself.